Welcome to the American Diversity Report podcasts, where we interview creative changemakers and expert innovators. I'm Deborah Levine, editor of the American Diversity Report, and your host. And with me today is Sidney Klein, born again as a Holocaust artist after October 7th, 2023. And after a 50-year no-painting hiatus, he now paints the effects of anti-Semitism, the death and destruction, and hopes to lessen anti-Semitism as viewers see, feel, and are affected. His work is in the Heller Museum in New York City, the Gross-Rosen Museum in Radnowska, Poland, and Yad Vashem Holocaust Art Research Center in Jerusalem, Israel. Amazing places. Welcome, Sid.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I really relish this opportunity to speak with you and your audience. So thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you are as an artist with this mission, and it's amazing, right? After 55 years to go back to this wonderful mission. Where are you and what did you do in the meantime during that 55 years?
Okay. I don't want to bore your audience with all of the things that I did during those 55 years. So I'm going to give you a top line.
Okay.
When I was in college, and I'm going back a number of decades, I'm not going to mention how many, but when I was in college, I decided that I'm finally going to spend my time doing what I wanted to do. So I switched my pre-law, pre-accounting major to fine art. I had been sketching and painting on my own, since I was 5 or 6 years old, if I can remember. And so I decided to major in fine art, and I did really well. I did really well, and I graduated with honors in fine art. But I was, at the same time, I was engaged to a lovely Jewish girl, and I knew I was never going to be able to support this lovely Jewish girl and our lovely future children based upon what limited talent I was able to express as an artist. So I stopped the art and I went to graduate school for business. I went to the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. I majored in marketing and finance. I graduated. I got a wonderful job as I had anticipated. I was now able to afford to keep my lovely Jewish wife and my children in the style which they had desired. And I didn't know painting, none whatsoever. I worked in marketing. I solved the major problems that clients were having to their satisfaction and to my satisfaction. But there was very little what you and I would call creativity involved in. There was some mental puzzle solving, but nothing what I would call creativity. So now, 55 years later, I decided I was going to retire. And I needed something to do that would occupy myself in a productive way during this retirement. I had no interest in sitting and watching TV reruns. So I was going to let me go back to art. Let me go back to art. Let me see if I still could draw, if I could still paint. And lo and behold, I still could. And then October 2023 occurred. And as an artist, one of the most profound problems any artist has or should have is, how am I going to occupy myself now? What is the next painting I'm going to do? What is the next sculpture that I'm going to do? And when October 2023 happened, boy, that had such a profound impact on me and my thinking and my work. And instead of looking for what I would call decorative subjects, like a landscape or flowers or a self portrait, even, I decided to devote myself to painting what was going on in the lives of Jews around the world, not just back then, but today as well. October 2023, for the first time in my life, I started looking at photographs of the Holocaust. I must tell you, Debbie, that in my entire life, up until that point, I lived in the most wonderful and awful bubble. It was wonderful and awful at the same time. Wonderful because I was never exposed to anti-Semitism. Even in the biggest companies that I worked for or consulted with, not even a shred or a hint of anti-Semitism didn't exist. But at the same time, it was awful because now, for the first time, I'm being exposed to what being a Jew is really all about. And I had turned my back on it during those 55 years.
Yes,
Being
I know that October 2023, which is when Hamas invaded Israel, killed all those people, and took all these poor souls away and hid them, and someone's still wondering where they are. I knew too my life would be changed. I can't imagine any Jew in the whole world not recognizing that. To go ahead, though, and become an artist after all those years and have that mission, I am so impressed. Tell us a little bit about that mission, how you
sure,
felt and what you did with it.
one of the things that dawned on me with this, uh, let's call it an epiphany, of October 2023. One of the things that occurred to me is that bubble that I had been living in. I'm not unique. There must be hundreds of thousands of Jews around the world who are living in their own bubbles. And certainly, if there are hundreds and thousands of Jews living in bubbles, there must be millions of non-Jews living in similar bubbles. And I thought it, this destruction of the Jews in Israel by the Hamas murderers, that destruction seemed to me to have it's just another chapter in the history of Jews. It's connected to the previous chapter of World War II and the Shoah, and the predecessors to the Shoah, and it goes back in history back to our patriarchs. It is it is a history that is as long in length as human recorded history is. And and I was living in a bubble, and I was kind of pretending that that history didn't exist. So I took it upon myself to burst out of that bubble and to help other Jews burst out of their bubbles and to help non Jews burst out of their bubbles. What I want to do and what I am doing is I portray the what anti-Semitism leads to. I portray the death and the destruction, the starvation. I don't even have the words in English to describe what anti-Semitism leads to. And I wanted Jews to see my vision of this, because we tend as human beings to block out the negative and emphasize. We're really good at forgetting the pains and the hurts and the things that we've had. My mission is to make sure that each one of us has the opportunity to reawaken those memories. And I want non-Jews to see what anti-Semitism always leads to. If you promote anti-Semitism, or if you're quiet when there is anti-Semitism and not speak up, I've taken it upon myself a mission to raise the awareness of anti-Semitism among every human being on this planet. And that's what I do. My paintings they're difficult to look at. And I do that on purpose, because the death and destruction that anti-Semitism causes is difficult to look at.
Oh,
It's
yes.
it's difficult to talk about. Well, I do it in living color, and I don't pull any punches. I make some people might call my paintings propaganda, and I would say absolutely. I I would say absolutely, because this is my mission. I don't want another Sid Klein spending 55 years and pretending the Holocaust never happened because he happened to be living in this wonderful bubble of his. I want to prick that bubble. I want to show him what his one generation or two generations before, what they went through, to remember that anti-Semitism exists. It's a poison in all of our societies, and we have to be actively engaged in burying it once and for all. And that's why. Sorry for the long speech, but
No,
that's my motivation. I want to lessen anti-Semitism.
I think that's an incredible mission, and I not only appreciate it, but I agree. And years ago, right, I took the job of the media director, community director for the Jewish Federation in Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Wow.
right after the Oklahoma City bombing.
Wow, what a time.
The idea that we would have that kind of anti Semitism, Jew hatred on our native soil, I just couldn't let it go. And so I didn't.
The remarkable thing is that anti-Semitism is not only destructive to the victims, it's self-destructive to the perpetrators. The perpetrators never end up in a better place because they they're anti-Semitic. They always end up in a worse place. And yet, generation after generation, anti-Semitism keeps arising, keeps damaging the anti-Semites, and they keep doing it. It like boggles the mind. You would think they would say, well, look, maybe we're not really benefiting from anti. Let's stop for a generation and see what happens. But they
There's
keep
going to be
perpetrating it.
yes, there's going to be on the 27th of January, the International Holocaust Remembrance Day,
Correct.
right? That
Yeah.
is going to be across the world, hopefully. Do you think that that will have any effect on people?
Geez, I don't know, Deborah. I really don't know what affects people. I I don't think I don't think whatever we're doing is enough by itself. I think because anti-Semitism, that bigotry is it's it's passed on from parent to child in a lot of cases. We have to break into that chain, and it's going to take more than 2, 3, 4, 10 generations for us, and it's going to take a lot of enlightenment by human beings. And look, I'm getting older and older, and I'm still looking for enlightenment. I haven't found it yet, uh, but I'm not going to stop trying. My paintings are my legacy. I want not just today, the people who see it, but 100 years from now, I want people to see my art, and I want it to have the same effect on them. I want two things to happen. One, that the memories that they buried about anti-Semitism, I want my art to resurrect those memories and make them top of mind. And second, people who have anti-Semitic tendencies but still have a conscience, I want the art to motivate them to listen more to their conscience and less to their anti-Semitic tendencies. That is that a lot? I think it's enough. It's enough.
I think it's wonderful. I hope that it's all come true. And through your art, you are doing something that will encourage people in those directions more than just talk. The visual, the emotion behind it. Art, it
Well,
has an incredible power for people.
what do they say about a picture is worth 1,000 words? I feel that there is a lot of truth to that old saw. And when I look at my paintings, and I see the what they express and the way that they express it, I often think that the visual of my painting is more impactful than someone standing in front of a group of people for 15 minutes lecturing about the evils of anti-Semitism. Quite honest, it's my work cuts closer to the bone than a lecture in a chapel or something. So I must tell you, Deborah, uh, when I started on this, let's call it an odyssey. When I started on this odyssey, I didn't know where I was going. Um, I didn't know if I was going to be good enough to create work that was going to achieve my objective. But as I painted, and you must know, after 55 years, I've forgotten more than I remembered. But as I painted and I became more facile with my brushes and my colors and the surfaces I was painting on, the images became more impactful as well. And I'm getting to a good place now where feel I have a pretty good control over the final image, and I'm active, taking advantage of that. I don't want to stop painting now. I know what I'm doing has a value, and that is the encouragement that I needed to keep going. So uh, I will tell you, when I paint, um, after a couple of hours, I'm emotionally drained.
I bet. I know how
I,
that feels.
I need to take a walk away, um, but it's worth it. It's really worth it because I see the value of the work that I'm creating in the change that it and the potential change that it's going to make in people. Like, for example, you mentioned before, I have the show starting in a couple of weeks in Poland. This the Gross Rosen Museum in Poland was the site of a Holocaust death camp. And it's been converted into a memorial for those who, unfortunately, for the I call them kadoshim, for the holy ones who lost their lives in the war. And it's also an art gallery. They're going to be featuring my work, 20 of my paintings in a solo exhibition. And I'm going to be interested in learning from the curators. What feedback have they had from the attendees at the show? Has my work made a difference in how some of these non-Jews who come to the show, how they feel about uh, uh, Judaism, how they feel about Jews? Has my work, has my art done something that the Holocaust building memorial itself could not do? So those are the kinds of questions I'm going to be looking forward to answers of.
Oh, I'd like to hear the answers too.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
amazing. Yes, the response, the emotional response to them is very definitely part of the art. I'll share with you that when I first read my father's wartime letters about the Holocaust, about liberating camps, it took me 20 years to write a memoir with those letters.
Wow.
It was just so emotional, right? So I'm delighted that you're doing what you're doing, that we're doing what we're doing, and that you're continuing on. Because in many ways, I think, even though we're older, that's part of what is making this possible. If we were really younger and trying to do this, I'm not sure that we would have the impact, the emotional impact that
You
we
wouldn't.
do.
No, you're right. You're entirely correct. I don't think it's any different than if, among the great composers. Like, for example, if you look at the early work that Beethoven did, so, the music critics would say, "Hey, it's nice, it's music, but it's kind of childish." Look to the works that Beethoven did when he was in his 50s, when he was mature. The music is entirely different. I think you're right. With art, it's the same thing. If I had wanted to do what I am doing now when I was in my 20s, it would have been fluff. It would have been lightweight. It would not have had the gravitas of the work that I'm doing now. I just completed a painting Friday morning. Doesn't have a name yet, but I'll describe the subject. It's 22 men wearing schmatas on the morning that they were liberated in their death camp. So it's the 22 men looking at you, and you're looking at them. And it's a very moving piece of work. I could not have done that in my 20s.
Understand. Would you
Yeah.
explain to our audience what the Yiddish word shmata means?
Oh, if you've got a bucket under your sink where you keep your rags, each one of those rags is known as a schmata. It's that what schmatas are rags, and in the death camps, um, they weren't the Nazis weren't issuing clean uniforms to the poor people who 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 were sent to these camps to die. Um, you put on a rag that a previously dead prisoner had been wearing. Uh, Slave laborers collected the garments that the newly dead prisoners were wearing and bundled them together and gave them over to the new arrivals.
Wow.
They weren't washed. They weren't, of course not. They weren't cleaned. You can imagine what, beyond a little modesty, I don't know what else these schmatas provided. It wasn't warmth. And believe me, it gets cold in Poland during the wintertime. We cannot even imagine the suffering that these people underwent day after day after day. I call them kadoshim. I don't have a better word. They're my holy people. And when I paint them, I treat each face as belonging to a holy person. Um, it, it, it's so I get emotionally. The work that I do, I don't paint dancing rabbis or someone holding it. I don't paint Moses holding the Ten Commandments. I don't paint those high points of Jewish history. There are plenty of other artists who do that. I want to make sure that we as a people, in the society that we live as a people, that we do not forget that there is anti-Semitism and the death and destruction that anti-Semitism invariably leads to.
Thank you. I so appreciate your doing this, especially these days. My goodness, we need it so badly. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap this lovely interview up?
Well, let me just say what my goal is for 2026.
Yes.
I am my work is being exhibited in three museums on three continents, which is a wonderful achievement. It's a feedback from the fine art community that what I'm doing, I'm on the right track. So I'm very pleased about that. But I will say, for 2026, I am going to continue to paint the death and the destruction um, of the Holocaust, of um, the destructions of Hamas in 2023. I may go back to an earlier time in Jewish history where the situation was unfortunately no different, because this anti Semitism is such a part of it. Like a man puts on a tallis when he goes to synagogue to pray. Well, as much as the tallis is a part of Judaism, anti Semitism is a part of Judaism, unfortunately. And I'm just going to continue to dedicate myself to making images of the results of anti Semitism. I don't want to stop.
Thank you. I don't want you to stop. And I'm sure there are many people out there who agree with me. Don't stop, because we need you. We need this more than ever. Although, as you say, it's been like this forever. And it will take quite a bit of doing to make it stop.
I hope someday it does. I have found that if you have someone who has no conscience and they're anti-Semitic, there is nothing I can do or you can or anybody else can do to get them to change their mindset. But if you have people that have a conscience, some more than others, those people, we have an opportunity to get them to look more favorably on Jews, or at least more neutrally at Jews than they currently are. So that's my target among the non-Jews. People with a conscience. I think if they see my art, it's going to have an effect to bring them, change their course, and bring them back to where human beings should rightfully be, which is nice and respectful of each other. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on in 2026. I want
Wonderful.
I want to get into institutions that have as their audiences both Jews and non-Jews, because I want to expand the non-Jewish audience to the work that I'm doing. So that's basically my goal for this coming year.
It's a wonderful goal, and audience, I hope you are listening very carefully and sharing this, because we want a broad audience on this. People who may not even know much about anti-Semitism, but have a conscience. And so we're going to conclude this, right, with a message to those people. Pay attention. And if you see something, say something.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.